Daddy, Daddy, wait. The words cut through the torchlit corridor like a blade through silk. My heart stopped. Ethan, my 5-year-old son, tore his hand from mine and ran, his small feet echoing off ancient stone as he sprinted toward the figure standing at the end of the hallway. No, not him. Anyone but him. Alpha King Lucas turned, and even from this distance I felt the weight of his presence, the leather armor, the dark eyes that had haunted my dreams for 5 years. Those eyes dropped to the child now wrapping small arms around his legs, and I watched recognition flash across his face like lightning. Time fractured. Guards shifted, hands moving toward weapons. Court members whispered behind jeweled fans. My Omega instinct screamed to run, to grab Ethan and disappear back into the human world where we had been safe. But Lucas moved, blocking the archway with nothing more than his body, and suddenly there was nowhere to go. He crouched down, bringing himself eye level with our son. My legs refused to work. I could only stand frozen as the most powerful alpha in the realm studied the boy's face, doing math I had prayed he would never get the chance to complete. 5 years old. Those eyes, that jawline already showing the promise of strength. His gaze lifted to mine across the corridor, and in it, I saw everything. Recognition, fury, and something that looked dangerously close to possession. We needed to talk, now. Lucas's gaze pinned me where I stood, hotter than the torches lining the corridor. Ethan still clung to his leg, wide-eyed and oblivious to the storm he had just summoned. "Sarah," Lucas said, voice low and dangerous, "tell me whose pup he is." My mouth went dry. The guards along the walls shifted, boots scraping stone. The air tasted of smoke and dominance, his scent rolling down the corridor like a wave. Ethan glanced back at me, confused by the tightness in my throat. "Come here, baby," I managed, reaching out. My hand shook. Ethan hesitated, then released Lucas and hurried back to my side. I folded him against me, his small body a fragile shield between us and the king of this realm. "I asked you a question," Lucas said. He took a step closer, then another, until the scent of leather and pine and raw alpha power filled my lungs. "Is he mine?" 5 years of lies pressed against my ribs. I had rehearsed a dozen answers in every nightmare where this moment caught up to me. None of them survived his eyes. Before I could force words out, footsteps pounded from the far end of the corridor. Marcus, Lucas's beta, appeared, his brown hair wind-tossed, a folder clutched in his hand. His gaze flicked from Ethan to me, then to his king. "We have a problem," Marcus said, breathless. "A big one." Lucas didn't look away from me. "Bigger than this?" "Same problem," Marcus said grimly. He held out the folder, only now it has documentation. Lucas snatched it, flipped it open. Papers whispered as he scanned them. I saw flashes, sketched maps, grainy images, my own profile from a distance, Ethan's small figure in a crowded marketplace. "Shadow Pack surveillance," Marcus said. They picked her up the moment she crossed the border. They tracked her all the way to the capital. Ice slid down my spine. I tightened my hold on Ethan. He squirmed, annoyed. "Mama, you're squishing me." I loosened my grip, fingers still dug into his tunic. "Shadow Pack?" Marcus finally addressed me directly. "They know you're an Omega traveling with a child. They don't know everything. Yet..." His eyes softened for a fraction of a second. "But they're asking questions, Sarah." Lucas closed the file with a snap. The sound echoed like a death sentence. "How long?" he asked. "Since the northern checkpoint," Marcus said. "They paid a border guard for a copy of her travel papers. We intercepted chatter this morning." His jaw clenched. "They're guessing the pup's yours. They're not certain. Yet?" Ethan lifted his head at the word pup. "I'm not a pup," he muttered, offended. "I'm 5. Lucas's eyes dropped to him again, lingering on the slope of his nose, the set of his mouth. Our mouth. My lungs forgot how to work. 5, Lucas repeated softly. "Exactly." I saw the calculation happen behind his eyes, saw the moment the numbers aligned with the memory of one reckless night beneath a blood-red moon. His gaze snapped back to me, stripped bare of any pretense. "You ran," he said. "Not a question. An accusation. Yes." The word came out like a confession and a challenge at once. You left my territory without word, without a trace. His voice roughened. You were pregnant. I swallowed. You made it very clear there was no place for an Omega at your side. A muscle jumped in his jaw. For a heartbeat, something like regret flickered there, then vanished under steel. Whatever I said, he answered, voice measured. You should have told me I had a child. I almost laughed. The sound twisted in my throat. You're the Alpha King, Lucas. Your council would have torn us apart before you even scented the truth. His power flared, a sudden pressure against my skin. Ethan flinched. Instantly, Lucas reined it back, nostrils flaring as if the effort cost him. The Shadow Pack will not get their hands on my heir, he said, each word sharpened to a blade. Not while I still breathe. I never said he was your... Look at him, Lucas cut in. Then lie to me again. Ethan peeked up at him, dark eyes so like his, curious rather than afraid. My throat burned. The denial died on my tongue. Silence stretched. The torches crackled. Somewhere deeper in the palace, a bell tolled the hour, indifferent to the way my world was collapsing. Finally, I whispered, yes, he's yours. The words tore free like skin from bone. Ethan studied my face, then Lucas's, trying to understand why the adults suddenly looked like they might shatter. Something changed in Lucas then. Not softer exactly, just sharper. As if my confession had clicked some invisible mechanism inside him into place. Marcus cleared his throat gently. Your Majesty, with respect, we need to move. If the Shadow Pack has been watching her, they may already know she's inside the palace. Lucas straightened. His decision rolled through the corridor like thunder. We're done standing in hallways. He fixed his gaze on me. You and the boy are moving to the royal wing. Now, no arguments. My spine stiffened. You can't just claim us like property. I am not claiming you, he said, eyes flashing. I am securing what is already mine. They will come for him, Sarah. They will use him to break me. And they will kill you just to watch me bleed. Ethan pressed closer to me, sensing the spike of fear under his name, even if he didn't understand the words. I smoothed a hand over his hair, my palm damp. What if I say no? I asked. Lucas took a step forward, so close I had to tilt my head back to keep his gaze. His scent wrapped around me, dragging up memories I'd buried so deep they still tasted like shame. Then, he said quietly, I will have my guards escort you anyway, because I would rather you hate me alive than thank me from a grave. For one wild moment I considered grabbing Ethan and running, bolting past guards and protocol, and the man who had once set my blood on fire. But Marcus was already signaling to the nearest warriors, their hands resting on hilts, eyes scanning the corridor for threats only they could sense. Ethan tugged on my sleeve. Mama, are we in trouble? The truth lodged behind my teeth. I forced a smile that felt like it might crack my face. We're going to a safer room, baby, that's all. Lucas's eyes softened by a fraction at the nickname, but his tone stayed all command. Marcus, take point. I want archers on the upper balconies and double patrols along the inner wall. No one in or out without my mark. Yes, Alpha. We moved as a unit through the palace, guards folding around us in a living shield. The royal wing loomed ahead, high windows spilling light onto polished stone. I had imagined this place once, in stupid, secret daydreams, entering it as a mate, not a liability. Now, every step felt like walking deeper into a gilded cage. In the courtyard, we had to cross open space, the sky a sharp slice of blue overhead. Flowers spilled from stone planters, their sweetness at odds with the tightness humming in the guard line. Ethan wriggled. Can I walk by myself? Please? Everyone staring. They were servants, nobles, warriors, all pretending not to look at the Omega and her suspiciously royal-looking child walking beside their king. Stay close, I murmured, releasing his hand. He shot me a quick grin and darted half a step ahead, arms spread like he was balancing on invisible lines. For a heartbeat, watching him, the tension eased. He was just a little boy in soft boots on warm stone. Then the air changed. It was subtle at first, a shift in the wind, the faintest creak of rope, the whisper of something cutting through space. Every hair along my arms lifted. Lucas moved before I could even process the sound. One second he was beside me, the next he had slammed into Ethan, knocking him flat and covering his small body with his own. A bolt slammed into the flagstones where Ethan's head had been, splintering stone. A second buried itself in Lucas's shoulder guard with a dull thud. Screams erupted. Guards roared. I dropped to my knees beside them, lungs locked, eyes tracking the trajectory back to the palace roofline. Archers, shadow pack, or bot traitors. It didn't matter. Lucas's snarl ripped through the courtyard, a sound so raw and primal it vibrated in my bones. The air itself seemed to flinch. Stone carried the echo, his protective fury rolling over everyone present like a shockwave. "Shields up!" Marcus bellowed. "Find that shooter, now!" I gathered Ethan into my arms, checking him frantically for blood, for wounds. He stared at the broken bolt inches from his face, then at Lucas above him, eyes huge. "Daddy?" he whispered, voice shaking. "What was that?" Lucas's gaze swept his small body, confirming what my trembling hands already knew. No blood, no injury, just terror. Only then did he seem to register the bolt lodged in his own armor, the thin line of red seeping beneath the leather. He ripped the projectile free and tossed it aside, eyes burning as he rose to his feet, keeping Ethan and me behind the solid wall of his body. "That," he said, voice like iron, "was the first and last time anyone will ever aim at my son and live to tell about it. The royal wing was everything the lower corridors weren't, quiet, polished, smothered in luxury that smelled faintly of beeswax and old money. Gold-threaded tapestries lined the walls, moons and wolves woven into scenes of glory I had only ever seen on coins. Ethan pressed his nose to each one as we passed, leaving foggy little prints on glass frames I was sure some servant would later curse me for. "Look, Mama," he whispered, pointing at a silver wolf reared beneath a full moon. "That one looks like you." I almost told him my wolf had never stood that tall, never looked that proud. Instead, I just smiled and squeezed his shoulder. Maybe one day. Elder Miriam waited for us at the end of the corridor, her back straight despite the years etched into her face. Her hair, white as winter, was braided and coiled at the nape of her neck, and power clung to her like a second robe. "Alpha," she greeted Lucas with a bow of her head, then turned that sharp, assessing gaze on me. "And our guests, our family," Lucas corrected quietly. The word snagged in my chest. Miriam's eyes flicked between us, something unreadable moving behind them, then softened as she looked at Ethan. "You must be Ethan," she said. "I've had a room prepared for you. There are stars painted on the ceiling." His whole face lit up. "Real ones? As real as paint can make them," she replied. "You can count them tonight and tell me if my old hands missed any." She led us into a suite that was larger than the entire inn we'd stayed at on the way here. The main sitting room opened into 2 bedrooms and a bathing chamber lined with smooth stone. Windows overlooked the inner courtyard, where training dummies stood like silent sentries in the fading light. Ethan darted from one thing to the next, testing the softness of the rug with his toes, peering into the wardrobe, gasping when he saw the painted constellations above his small bed. I watched him spin in a slow circle, pure wonder written in every line of his body, and tried not to see the bars. Miriam hung back beside me. "If there is anything you need," she said, "you come to me. Not a guard, not a servant who might gossip. Me." I studied her profile. The fine lines around her eyes were from a lifetime of watching, not smiling. "Why?" I asked before I could stop myself. "You don't even know me." She gave a soft huff that might have been a laugh. "I have served 3 kings," she said. "I know what happens when they forget their hearts for the sake of their crowns. Lucas is a good alpha, but even good men make foolish choices when frightened." "He doesn't look frightened," I murmured. "Not to you," she said. "You haven't watched him pace the halls at night since the last war." Her gaze slid to Ethan, who was now trying to climb onto the window seat. "You, child, are what frightens him." I thought of the way Lucas had moved in the courtyard, faster than breath, throwing himself over Ethan as bolts rained down. He could have died for him. "Yes," Miriam's voice was gentle. "That is what terrifies him most." She spent the next hour explaining the rituals of the royal wing as she showed me where fresh linens were kept, which doors were guarded inside and out, which courtyards I could safely use without alerting half the council. There were rules about where I could walk alone, which evenings the council met, how to address nobles who would pretend not to see me while watching every move I made. Don't let them smell your fear, she advised, adjusting a vase so the flowers face the door. They respect strength, and they expect weakness from an Omega. Use that. How? I asked. By deciding what you are before they do, she said simply. You are the mother of the king's heir. Remember that when they look down their noses at you. Ethan eventually fell asleep on the star-painted bed, clutching a plush wolf someone had placed there before we arrived. I tucked the blanket around him and pressed my lips to his hair, inhaling the familiar scent of soap and sunshine. From the window, I saw the training yard below glow orange under the setting sun. Warriors moved through drills, blades flashing. One figure stood apart, alone in the center, bare-armed and unmistakable even from this height. Lucas. I should have stayed, closed the curtains, pretended I didn't feel the thin thread tugging between us, but my feet were already moving, carrying me down the corridors Miriam had just mapped out, heart thudding too loud in my ears. The yard smelled of dust and sweat and iron, grounding after the perfumed air of the royal wing. I slipped into the shadow of a stone colonnade just as Lucas called someone's name. Ethan, he boomed, the word rolling across the space like a summons. I froze. For a frantic heartbeat, I thought Ethan had followed me, but then Lucas turned, eyes scanning the balcony where our windows faced the yard. He must have realized we watched from there earlier, memorized the angle. My pulse stuttered. I stepped out of the shadows. He's asleep. Lucas's gaze dropped to me, surprise flickering, then smoothing away. Then you'll watch for him, he said. He should see this. See what? He shifted his stance, rolling his shoulders. What he is. What he will be. His eyes searched mine. If you allow it. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He was already stripping the leather harness from his chest, leaving him in a simple training shirt that clung to sweat-damp skin. He closed his eyes, exhaled slowly, and when he inhaled again, the air itself seemed to respond. I felt it before I saw it, the swell of power, the crackle along my skin that said every wolf in the vicinity was listening. Bones shifted under his skin, muscles warping, his spine bowing. The sound of it was wet and wrong and beautiful, the way only our kind could be. In heartbeats, the man was gone. The wolf that stood where he had been was massive, midnight dark, eyes burning ember red in the fading light. Scar tissue broke the sleekness along one flank, pale against black fur, a reminder of battles survived. My own wolf rose inside me, pressing against my ribs. It hurt to hold her back. We had run alone for so long, the sight of an alpha like this lit up every instinct I had tried to bury. Show off, I muttered, fingers curling against the urge to reach out. He prowled the edge of the yard, scenting, testing the space, then turned those glowing eyes up toward the royal wing, as if he could see straight into Ethan's room. A low rumble rolled from his chest, pure possessive pride. I hadn't realized I was smiling until a small voice yawned behind me. Mama! I spun. Ethan stood barefoot in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, hair sticking up like he'd wrestled a pillow and lost. How did you... I woke up and you were gone, he said, as if that explained everything. I followed your smell. He shuffled to the edge of the steps, then froze when his gaze landed on the wolf below. His lips parted. For once, he was silent. That's him, he whispered. That's really him. Yes, I said softly. That's your father. The wolf lowered his head, emotion strangely gentle for something so lethal. Ethan crept down the steps until he was level with the yard, one small hand reaching out like he had in the corridor. Can I learn to do that? He breathed. Every nerve in my body screamed to say no, to wrap him in silver and lock him somewhere the world could never touch him. Instead, I forced the word out past the lump in my throat. Yes. Lucas shifted then, the change back to human slower, more deliberate, as if he wanted Ethan to see each bone realign, each limb reclaim its shape. He straightened, chest heaving, hair damp with sweat and transformation. Ethan's eyes shone like he'd just watched the sun rise from the ground. Teach me. Lucas's gaze snapped to mine, seeking permission. The fact that he asked it all loosened something tight in my chest. Gently, I said. He's still small. I know. Lucas answered, voice rough. We start with control, not teeth. He spent the next hour showing Ethan simple exercises, how to breathe through his nose and feel his wolf under his skin, how to plant his feet, how to listen. My son mimicked every move with fierce concentration, tongue poking out between his teeth. When he stumbled, Lucas was there, steadying him with hands that dwarfed Ethan's shoulders but never squeezed too hard. Watching them hurt in ways I wasn't ready to name. They moved the same way when they focused, both of them slight tilt of the head, same furrow in their brows. When Ethan laughed, a bright bubbling sound after successfully summoning the faintest golden flicker of claws, Lucas's entire face transformed. The hard set of his jaw eased, his eyes warmed, and for a heartbeat he didn't look like a king or a warrior. He just looked like a man looking at his son. By the time the moon had risen, Ethan drooped on his feet, wobbling between us. Lucas scooped him up without asking, carrying him back toward the royal wing as if he'd done it 1,000 times instead of once. At the suite door, he hesitated. Can we talk after he sleeps? 5 years of swallowed words crowded my tongue. Running had been easier than this. Hiding had been simpler than standing in front of the man I had loved once and telling him why I'd chosen life without him. But Ethan's soft breath, warm against my neck, reminded me that nothing about our lives was simple anymore. Fine, I said. One conversation. That's all. Later, after Ethan was tucked under painted stars and the palace had gone hushed and watchful, Lucas stood in my doorway, shoulders filling the frame, shadows clinging to him like a cloak. Why did you run, Sarah? He asked quietly, and for the first time in 5 years, I let myself answer. Lucas stepped into the sitting room and closed the door behind him with a soft click that sounded far too final. The palace lamps were turned low, throwing long shadows across the carpets and catching the edge of his jaw in gold. I stood by the window, arms wrapped around myself as if I could hold my ribs together by sheer will. You said you would answer, he reminded me quietly. So answer, why did you run? I watched the courtyard below instead of him. Warriors moved along the walls, dark shapes against stone. Somewhere out there, people wanted my son dead simply because of who his father was, because of who I had been foolish enough to want. I didn't run, I said at last. I woke up and you were gone. Silence, heavy, humming, expectant. That is not an answer, he said. It's the beginning of one. My fingers dug into my elbows. Do you remember anything after the eclipse ceremony? After we left the hall? His breathing changed, the slightest hitch. I remember enough. I closed my eyes. The memory came in flashes, his hands on my waist, the way his control had finally cracked, my wolf singing with something wild and right. For one night, I had let myself forget I was an Omega and he was a king. I fell asleep, I whispered, with your mark on my neck and your scent wrapped around me and this stupid, impossible belief that when I woke up, you'd still be there. His voice dropped. Sarah, but you weren't, I cut in. The words came faster now, gathering their own momentum. The bed was cold. The room was empty. No note, no explanation. Nothing. I left you a note, he said, almost offended. I wrote it myself. I laughed then, sharp and humorless. I never saw a note, Lucas. The room shifted. I felt his attention sharpen like a blade. What did you see? He asked. I finally turned to face him. His eyes were shadowed, searching my face like the truth might be written there. I saw your beta, I said. I saw Marcus standing in the doorway with 2 guards behind him, looking at me like I was something that crawled out from under a rock. Lucas's brows slammed together. Marcus? Yes, I snapped. He said the Alpha King was busy preparing for war, that our night was a lapse in judgment, that the council would never allow you to acknowledge an Omega mate, especially one from outside the noble lines. Color drained from his face, leaving his features carved from stone. He said that to you. He said more. The words burned my tongue, but I forced them out. He said if I caused a scandal, they would make sure it ended quickly, for me, and for any complication. Lucas moved. One moment he was across the room, the next, his hands were braced on the table between us, knuckles white, power crashing over my skin. The glass lamp chimed from the vibration. They threatened you, he growled. In my name. You were the one with the crown, I shot back. Did it matter whose mouth the words came from? He flinched, almost imperceptibly. I almost regretted the bite in my tone. Almost. What did you do? He asked, voice rough. What do you think I did? My throat tightened around the memory. I packed what I could in 10 minutes. I left the palace through a servant's gate before anyone could stop me. I crossed into human territory and kept walking until my feet bled. I didn't even know I was pregnant yet. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You thought I sent Marcus to threaten you, to get rid of you. I thought you regretted me, I said simply. And that your people were willing to kill to make sure your regret didn't show. The rage that rolled off him then was unlike anything I had felt in years. It wasn't the sharp, focused fury he'd used on the assassins. This was deeper, older, a tectonic shift under the surface. The walls seemed to vibrate with it. Dust fell in a fine mist from the ceiling. Lucas, I warned, you're shaking the room. Good, he snarled. Let the whole damned palace shake. A crack split the plaster near the doorway, a thin, jagged line. Somewhere down the hall, a servant yelped as a piece of stone clattered to the floor. Stop, I snapped. You'll wake Ethan. The name cut through the fury. He swallowed, dragged in a breath, then another. The pressure eased, like a storm pulling back from the cliffs. I would never have sent anyone to threaten you, he said, each word dragged out. If I'd known you were pregnant. You didn't, I said, and I wasn't going to stick around long enough to find out if that changed anything. He looked almost wounded. You really believed I'd risk my heir like that? That I'd allow my counsel to dictate whether my mate lived or died? You just said you didn't know, I threw back. And I wasn't your mate. According to your people, I was a mistake. According to my people, he repeated slowly, as if tasting something foul. Not according to me. His gaze went distant for a moment, tracking back through memories I couldn't see. I woke up to a war council pounding on my door. There had been a border attack. I was dragged straight into strategy, and when I finally got free, you were gone. No trace. Not even a scent trail. Maybe that's because someone in this palace didn't want you following it, I said. Our eyes met, the same realization dawning between us. Marcus, he said. Or whoever put those words in his mouth, I countered. You told me once he'd die for you. Men like that don't improvise treason on their own. For the first time since I'd met her, I wished Elder Miriam were here. She knew the shape of politics that moved beneath the palace floors. She would know which stones to pry up to find the rot. Lucas paced, hands clenched at his sides. Someone wanted you gone. Someone wanted to make sure I believed you'd left willingly, without a word. And they succeeded, I said. Didn't they? His jaw worked. I looked for you. 2 years, Sarah. Every contact, every spy, every ally in human territory. No trace. It was like you vanished because I had hidden in places kings never looked. Free clinics, back alleys, small towns where wolves were myths mothers used to scare misbehaving children. I had learned to fold myself smaller, to pass as human until my own skin felt too tight. I found out I was pregnant in a human emergency room, I said quietly. No pack, no territory. A nurse who didn't know what to do with a woman who healed too fast and whose blood didn't quite look right. I thought about coming back. I did. But every time I imagined walking through those gates, I heard your beta's voice telling me the council would never accept me. And I couldn't. My voice cracked. I couldn't risk them taking my child. Something shuddered in his eyes then, a mix of guilt and murderous intent aimed at everyone except me. Who knew? He asked. The night we were together, who knew you'd been in my chambers? I thought back. Your beta, the guards outside your door, the council members who saw me leave the banquet with you. Heat rose to my cheeks even now. I wasn't exactly subtle. Victor, Lucas said, the name a curse. He argued hardest against taking a mate before the war, said a queen would be a weakness our enemies could exploit. Lord Victor? I asked. The one with the fox eyes and the expensive robes? The same? He grimaced. He oversaw palace protocol at the time. He would have had reason to correct any mistake he thought I was making. Pieces clicked into place. The disdain in Victor's eyes when he'd noticed me in the corridor earlier, the tightness around his mouth when he'd seen Ethan. Like he was watching a problem he thought he'd solved rise from the grave. You think he told Marcus to deliver that message? I said. I think, Lucas replied, that Marcus would rather cut off his own hand than threaten a woman I'd just marked, unless someone convinced him he was carrying my explicit orders. And you never wondered why your supposed orders matched exactly what your counsel wanted. His mouth flattened. I was younger, stupid. I thought distance would make things easier. For you... He winced at his own words. I told myself, if you wanted to be found, you'd send word. When you didn't, He shook his head. I listened to the wrong voices. I sat down heavily on the edge of the couch. The cushions dipped under my weight. So let me get this straight. Your head counselor decides an Omega is unfit to stand beside you, manipulates your Beta into delivering a threat, and lets you believe I abandoned you. All while making sure I'm too scared to come back. And now, Lucas finished grimly, my enemies know I have an heir, and my own court is a nest of snakes. A soft knock at the door interrupted us. We both froze, then relaxed a fraction at the small, sleepy voice that followed. Mama, are you awake? I crossed the room in 3 strides and cracked the door open. Ethan stood there in his nightshirt, hair wild, eyes heavy with sleep. I had a dream, he murmured. The bad wolves were chasing you, but Daddy was there and he made them stop. Can I sleep in your bed? My heart turned over. Of course. I glanced back at Lucas. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were fixed on our son like he was trying to memorize every freckle. Can we stay here forever? Ethan asked as I scooped him up. I like it here. There's stars on the ceiling. And Daddy. And the big wolf yard. The question hit harder than any arrow. Forever. In a palace built on secrets and lies, with enemies circling and allies I couldn't trust, with a king who might love our son, but belonged to a world that had nearly killed me once. I don't know, I told him honestly, smoothing his hair back. We'll see. He nodded, already drifting, content with that non-answer. His head dropped onto my shoulder. Lucas watched us from the center of the room, hands loose at his sides, shoulders taut. I'll find out exactly what Victor did, he said quietly. What he took from us, from you, and if he so much as breathed the word heir to the wrong ears. His eyes darkened, voice dropping to something cold enough to frost glass. I will make sure the next secret he keeps is the one buried with him. Breakfast dies the moment I smell the stew. At first it is just a flicker under the usual scents of eggs and herbs, something metallic and wrong twisting through the steam. My wolf pricks up, hackles lifting. Across the low table, Ethan chatters to Lucas about a training move he almost mastered yesterday, completely unaware. Don't eat that, I say, sharper than I mean to. Ethan blinks, spoon hovering. But I'm hungry. Lucas's eyes cut to me, then to the bowl in front of our son. I see the exact moment his instincts catch the same sour note. His hand closes over Ethan's wrist, gentle but unyielding. Trade with me, he says calmly. Ethan pouts. You always say I need to finish my own food. Today I'm making an exception. He slides his own bowl in front of Ethan and pulls our sons toward him. His face doesn't change, but a muscle jumps in his jaw as he lifts a spoonful to his nose, inhales once, then sets it down. Miriam, he calls, voice quiet and lethal. The head of staff appears in the doorway, as if she has been waiting just out of sight. Her gaze flicks to the untouched bowl, then to Lucas's expression. She doesn't ask questions. Take that to the testing room, he orders. Guard it. Anyone who goes near it answers to me. 2 warriors materialize at her shoulders. Miriam inclines her head, lifts the tray with steady hands, and sweeps out. Ethan twists in his seat. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about, I lie. My heart is pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. Eat your eggs, baby. Lucas's hand finds my knee under the table, squeezing once. His palm is warm, grounding. I realize my fingers are digging into the wood like claws. By midday, the truth arrives in the form of Miriam and Marcus, both grim-faced. Nightshade derivative, Miriam reports. Refined. Enough to stop a wolf's heart in 3 bites. My stomach lurches. Ethan is in the training yard with a guard. I can still hear his laughter faintly through the open window. For a second, the sound feels like it's coming from another world. Who served it? Lucas asks. One of the kitchen runners, Marcus says. Name's Joran. Human-born. That doesn't clear him, Lucas snaps. I know. That's why he's in irons. We find Joran in a storeroom off the servants' hall, tied to a chair, wrists shackled, fear scent thick in the air. He can't be more than 18, with flour still dusting his sleeves and terror widening his eyes when Lucas enters. Alpha, he stammers. I swear, I didn't know. Lucas doesn't roar. He doesn't need to. The full weight of his presence fills the room, smothering. You carried poison to my son's table, he says. Start talking. Joran's gaze skitters between us, landing on me like I'm some kind of shield. It almost makes me sick. A man, he blurts, in the lower market, said it was medicine for an old council member's illness. I was just supposed to put it in his tray, but then they changed the instructions and... Marcus steps in. Names, places, details. Now, the story spills out. The man was a contact of Lord Victor's. The instructions were delivered through Victor's assistant, accompanied by a heavy purse and a warning. Speak of this and your body will never be found. The target changed from an unnamed elder to the boy in the royal wing 2 days ago. 2 days, right after Victor learned the truth about Ethan. Why didn't you go to Miriam? I demand. Or anyone. Joran shakes his head frantically. He said it was palace business. Said if I refused, they'd say I stole from the royal stores. My sister works in the laundry. I didn't know it was poison, I swear. Enough, Lucas says. He turns to Marcus. Lock him up. Same level as the political prisoners. No visitors without my mark. When they're gone, the room feels emptier. Victor, I say. Lucas's eyes are already far away, calculating. Victor. The throne room fills fast. Nobles line the walls, hungry for spectacle. Lord Victor is dragged in, wrists bound but head high, robes immaculate, fox-bright eyes sweeping the crowd. They barely pause on me. Lord Victor, Lucas says from the high seat, you stand accused of treason, collaborating with Marcus Thorne and attempting to murder the crown prince. A ripple of shock passes through the room. Victor's mouth curves, almost amused. Accusations are easy, my king, he says smoothly. Proof is harder. Marcus steps forward, laying a small stack of parchments on the steps below the throne. Intercepted correspondence with Shadow Pack runners, payment records from Victor's private accounts, instructions to his assistant regarding the boy in the royal wing. All bearing his seal, Victor's gaze flicks to the documents, then back to Lucas. His arrogance doesn't waver. Forged, he says, or misunderstood. You have many enemies. It would be convenient for them to discredit your most loyal advisor. Lucas rises. He descends the steps one by one, every inch an apex predator choosing patience over pounce. Loyal, he repeats softly. Is that what you call ordering my Omega threatened 5 years ago, telling her I'd disown her? That my counsel would see her and any child she carried dead? The murmur this time is a roar. Victor stiffens, finally thrown. I acted in your best interest, he snaps. You were about to throw away your throne for a heat-drunk mistake with a nobody Omega from nowhere. The growl that rips from Lucas makes several nobles flinch. Careful, he says. You are talking about the mother of my heir. Victor's mask cracks. Underneath is fury and something uglier. You think the Pax will accept this? He spits. An Omega Luna from outside the bloodlines? A bastard prince from a one-night lapse? Marcus doesn't even have to lift a claw. You're doing his work for him. And so you helped him, Lucas says. Fed him information, tried to erase my son before anyone knew he existed. Tell me, Victor, was that also in my best interest? It's a confession, buried in contempt. You do not get to decide what protects my kingdom, Lucas continues. You do not get to decide who I love, or who lives, or who dies. That is my burden, not yours. Any last words? Victor smiles, sharp and humorless. Just this. You're already too late. Marcus has more than spies in your kitchens. When he strikes, no royal wing, no Omega, no heir will save you. You'll know when the walls start falling. My skin goes cold. Lucas looks at Marcus. Take him to the deepest cells. No light, no visitors. If he so much as sneezes, I want to know. Guards drag Victor away at last, fear finally flickering across his face as the doors slam. The room exhales. Lucas turns, gaze sweeping his court. "Let this be clear," he says. "Anyone who threatens my family is my enemy. Counselor, servant, blood, it does not matter. There will be no second chances." Later, when the nobles scatter and the throne room empties, a small hand slips into mine. Ethan stares up at me, eyes wide. "Did Daddy win?" he whispers. I kneel to his level, heart heavy. "He stopped someone bad from hurting us," I say. "That's a kind of winning. Then we're safe now?" I want to say yes. Victor's warning echoes in my head. I pull Ethan against me, holding him a little too tight. "For tonight," I murmur into his hair, "we're safe tonight." It starts as a whisper under my skin, a flicker of heat at the base of my spine, a tightening low in my belly that has nothing to do with fear or anger. I'm in the library pretending to read while Ethan builds a fort out of cushions, when the scent of smoke and pine hits me stronger than usual and my body simply reacts. My wolf stirs, stretching, greedy. The room feels smaller, the walls closer, the air thick. Ethan pops his head out of the cushion fort. "Mama, look! It's a castle. Daddy has to storm it." My laugh comes out thin. "Maybe later, baby." I stand too fast and the world tilts. Heat washes through me in a slow, deliberate wave. 5 years without a proper cycle, and now, of all times, my traitorous body chooses to wake up. Of course it waits until I'm back under the same roof as Lucas. I make it to the corridor before I crash into a solid chest. Hands grip my arm, steadying me. His scent hits like a blow. "Careful," Lucas says. "You look—" He stops. Everything in him goes still. The air between us changes. His pupils blow wide, swallowing color. His fingers tighten just enough for me to feel the tremor running through them. "Sarah?" My name sounds different on his tongue, rougher. "You're in heat." Mortification slams into me. I try to yank back, but his hands are iron. I can feel my pulse racing under his grip, feel my skin heating where we touch. "No," I lie, "I'm fine, just tired." "Don't insult me," he growls quietly. "I can smell you." The words send another shameful shiver through me. I hate my body for responding, hate him for noticing, hate the universe for making me this weak around him. "Let go," I say. "Now." He does, immediately, as if I burned him. Stepping back doesn't help. His scent clings to me, stronger now, threaded with something dark and hungry that calls to every buried instinct I have. "How long?" he asks, jaw tight. "Since this morning, I admit. Lying will only make things worse. It's building—" He drags a hand over his face like he's scrubbing away a thought. When he looks at me again, his eyes are clearer, leashed by sheer will. "I can leave the palace," he says. "Take a unit, inspect the border posts. Be gone a few days until it passes." The offer knocks the breath out of me. Every cell in my body screams no at the idea of him leaving when danger is circling, but another part sighs in relief at the thought of distance from this suffocating pull. "You'd abandon your throne in the middle of all this because my hormones are inconvenient?" I ask, trying for bitterness instead of panic. "I'd remove the trigger that's making this harder on you," he answers. "The last thing you need is an alpha pacing outside your door while your body is screaming for a mate bond we haven't agreed on." His restraint does something to me. Makes my chest ache. "We both know distance won't erase the bond," I say quietly. "It will make it quieter." He glances down the hall toward Ethan's room. "You have enough to manage without fighting your own skin." A shout from the courtyard below cuts through the moment, then another, urgent this time. We both move to the nearest window. Smoke curls up from the outer wall. Warriors sprint along the battlements, weapons drawn. The alarm bell begins to toll, low and insistent. Marcus appears at the end of the corridor, breathless. "Explosive rune on the north gate," he reports. Marcus is testing the defenses. No breach yet, but scouts spotted shadow pack runners in the woods. Of course. Marcus Thorne choosing this exact day to push. Lucas's entire body shifts into command. "Double the patrols," he orders. "Rotate the archers. No one outside the inner wall without my mark." Marcus nods and is gone again. Lucas looks back at me. The heat between us hasn't lessened. If anything, the spike of adrenaline has sharpened every nerve. "I'm not leaving," he says. Not while he's probing the walls, not with you and Ethan here. The rational part of me agrees, the rest of me is screaming at being trapped in a fortress with my unbonded mate while my body climbs steadily toward fever. So what then? I demand. You lurk outside my door and hope I don't lose my mind? Separate quarters, he says, guards between us, cold baths, meditation, whatever it takes. Like that ever works, I mutter. His mouth twitches despite everything. It's worked for 5 years because you didn't know where I was, I shoot back. Easy to be noble when your temptation is 3 countries away. He flinches, then straightens. You think I didn't feel it? He asks. Every time the moon turned, I wondered if you were safe or suffering alone. I smelled ghosts where you used to be. He steps closer, stopping with careful distance between us. I can feel the restraint humming off him. I searched for you for 2 years, he says. Sent scouts into human territories, paid informants, followed rumors of a silver-eyed Omega healer who vanished before anyone learned her name. Every time I thought I'd found you, you were already gone. I stare at him, pulse pounding in my ears. You never said. You were already sure I'd thrown you away, he says quietly. Would it have mattered? Yes, I want to say. Maybe, I don't know. Heat and memory twist together until I can't separate past from present. What made you stop looking? I ask instead. His eyes darken. Everyone around me said the same thing, that if you wanted to be found, you'd send word, that you'd chosen a life without me. I told myself respecting that was the only way to honor what we'd had. His mouth twists, so I buried it under duty. Wars, treaties, endless council meetings. It worked, mostly, the word scrapes out of me, until your son ran into my arms and called me daddy, he says. Until I saw my own eyes in his face and realized how much living I'd been doing half dead. The honesty in his voice threatens to undo me more than the heat does. My wolf presses hard against my skin, desperate to close the distance, to finally complete what started 5 years ago. I dig my nails into my palms until pain cuts through the haze. This isn't fair, I whisper. My body doesn't care about councils or politics or the fact that you still terrify me. It just wants me, he finishes softly. The bond, the promise. He looks like he's fighting the same battle, muscles tight, throat working like he's swallowing back instinct. I won't touch you without your consent, he says. Not again. Not ever. I don't care what your heat says or mine. If we complete this bond, it's because you choose it with a clear head. Not because biology backs you into a corner. Outside, the bell keeps tolling, a steady reminder that danger is not pausing for our personal disaster. What if we don't have that luxury? I ask. What if Marcus breaches the walls and your enemies smell my heat and his unclaimed scent on Ethan? An unbonded Luna and an heir without a marked father or weaknesses. You know that as well as I do. His jaw clenches. I know, he admits. But forcing you into a bond you might resent is its own kind of weakness. I won't build our future on coercion. The absurd thing is, I believe him. Another wave of heat rolls through me, stronger, leaving my knees unsteady. Lucas notices instantly. His hands flex at his sides as if it takes everything in him not to reach out. You need to rest, he says roughly. Miriam has teas that can dull the edge. I'll post guards outside your door and sleep in the war room. You're going to work while I sweat through sheets? I try for lightness and fail. He gives a humorless huff. Marcus chose his timing well. He always did like playing with fire. I swallow. What if I call for you? His eyes blaze. For a heartbeat, control slips, and I see the full, unfiltered hunger there. It steals my breath. Then he says slowly, I'll come to your door, and I'll ask if you're sure. If you still are, I won't leave until the bond is sealed and every wolf in this realm knows you are mine and I am yours. His voice drops to a rasp. But if there's even a flicker of doubt, I walk away. No matter what it does to me, and if you call for me, I ask. His mouth curves, pained. I've been calling for you for 5 years, Sarah. You're the one who finally answered. We stand there, suspended between past and future, between instinct and choice, while outside our enemies test the walls and the moon climbs slowly toward full. My body burns for him. My mind remembers every reason I left. For now, all I can do is breathe, endure, survive both the heat under my skin and the one rising beyond the palace walls. Go plan your war, I say at last. I'll try not to set myself on fire. He hesitates, then reaches out, brushing his knuckles over the back of my hand. The touch is brief, careful, devastating. Don't burn without me, he murmurs. Then he turns and strides toward the war room, leaving me in the corridor with my heart pounding, my wolf howling, and the awful knowledge that for the first time in years, I don't just fear the bond. I want it. The sky bleeds red long before the moon clears the horizon. From the balcony, I watch it rise, huge and heavy, washing the palace roofs in rust-colored light. Wolves in the city below howl in answer, the sound layering until it vibrates in my bones. The blood moon, the night every story swears fate stops asking and starts taking. My body is already on fire. Heat crawls over my skin like a too-tight pelt. My wolf paces just under the surface, teeth bared at enemies I can't see and a mate I can feel through stone walls. Every breath tastes like Lucas, smoke and pine and storm, and the half-formed bond between us hums louder with each inch the moon climbs. Miriam presses a cool cloth to my forehead. Teas will only do so much tonight, she murmurs. You're fighting nature and prophecy at once. Story of my life, I say, though it comes out more like a wheeze. Her eyes flick to Ethan, perched on the window seat, face pressed to the glass as he watches. Torches blossom along the outer wall. Are the bad wolves coming? He asks. Your father won't let them in, Miriam answers before I can. As if summoned, the war horn sounds, 3 long blasts that rattle the glass. My wolf slams against my ribs. I grip the window ledge. Marcus, I whisper. The door bursts open. Marcus stands there in full armor, eyes sharp. Behind him the corridor is chaos, runners, shouted orders, the palace snapping into war shape. North wall's under attack, he says. Smaller strike on the east as distraction. Lucas is on the ramparts. I push to my feet. Then I'm going to him. Marcus blocks the doorway with one arm. No, you're not. My heat chooses that moment to surge, white hot. The bond flares so bright I swear I feel Lucas's heartbeat for a second. Fast, focused, out there where steel meets teeth. You don't understand, I grit out. If he dies while I'm like this, I know what happens to an unbonded Omega when her mate is killed, he says roughly. I've seen it. I'm not watching it again. That stops me cold. Ethan slides off the seat, bare feet whispering on stone. What's happening? He whispers. Where's Daddy? Fighting, Marcus says, and your job is to keep your mother safe. Can you do that, little wolf? Ethan nods, though his lip trembles. Miriam moves to the far wall, fingers pressing a pattern into the carved molding. A slab of stone sighs inward, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling into darkness. Cool air rushes up, scented with old earth and older magic. The sanctuary? I ask. She nods. No direct passages from outside, only a handful of us know it exists. Tonight, that includes you. I'm not leaving him, I say. Marcus's gaze locks on mine. If Marcus finds you in heat with an unclaimed heir, he won't bother killing Lucas. He'll break you both and parade your son like a trophy. Let the Alpha hold the line. Let me get you where they can't reach. The bond pulls toward the battlefield, a constant tug. Ethan's small hand finds mine and squeezes. Mama, he whispers. Please, that decides it. Fine, I breathe. But if that door opens and it's not Lucas, you run. Both of you. Miriam snorts. You think you're the only one who knows how to protect a prince? We descend. The stairs twist down, torchlight licking damp stone. My heat makes the air feel thicker. Every distant clash of metal above echoes through my skull. Halfway down, the bond spikes so hard my knees buckle. Lucas, I gasp, catching myself on the wall. Marcus is instantly at my side. He's alive, he says. I can still feel him on the pack link. Angry as hell. That's a good sign. If he falls, I'll feel it first, I say. There won't be time for warnings. I'll just break. Then we don't let him fall, he answers. Keep moving. The stairs end at a heavy door banded in iron. Faint runes glow along the metal. Miriam traces one, whispers a word, and the lock clicks. The sanctuary is a circular chamber carved from bedrock, ceiling lost in shadow. A shallow pool glows dully in the lantern light. Wolves and moons are etched into the walls, old scenes of battles and coronations. This place has held queens and heirs through 6 wars, Miriam says. It will hold you tonight. Ethan edges to the pool, staring at his reflection. Each muffled boom from above makes his shoulders jerk. I sink onto a stone bench, pressing my fingers into my eyes. The heat burns hotter with every distant roar. My wolf wants to be out there, shoulder to shoulder with Lucas, tearing into anything that dares touch what's ours. My body wants one thing, my mate, here, now, bond sealed until nothing can rip us apart. Instead, I have stone, echoes, and the sour taste of helplessness. Ethan climbs into my lap without asking. He's shaking. I wrap my arms around him, holding him like he's the only solid thing in the world. Will Daddy win? He asks into my shoulder. He has to, I say, because the alternative is unthinkable. Your father doesn't know how to lose. Above us, something explodes. Dust drifts from the ceiling. Marcus swears under his breath, pacing near the door, hand on his sword even though steel won't help against falling rock. Is that the walls? I ask. Outer towers, maybe, he says. If they'd breached the inner ring, Lucas would be roaring in my head. I don't tell him Lucas is already roaring in mine, flashes of rage and pain and iron focus. Every time he lands a blow, my muscles twitch. Every time steel bites him, nerves flare in sympathy. The bond has become a live wire, carrying every surge of his emotion straight into my burning veins. I whisper to no one, just stay alive. Miriam brings another cool cloth, presses it to my neck. My mother used to say, omegas are the spine of a pack, she murmurs. Not the teeth, the part that holds everything upright when the rest wants to collapse. I don't feel very upright, I say. You are here, she answers. Breathing, holding the prince while the world shakes. That is enough. A distant howl slices through the rock. Lucas's voice, even muted. It starts as a battle cry and twists into something raw, edged with pain. My wolf answers before I can stop her, a sound tearing from my throat that doesn't sound entirely human. Ethan flinches, then grabs my face in both hands. Don't go, he says fiercely. Don't leave me, Mama. His fear cuts through the haze like a blade. For a heartbeat, I see what I could become if I let instinct win, a creature clawing at stone to reach her dying mate, leaving her child alone in the dark. I can't let that be me. I'm not going anywhere, I tell him, forcing each word past the animal in my chest. Do you hear me? No matter what happens up there, I stay with you. You promise? He whispers. I swallow hard. I promise. Another boom, more dust. Marcus tilts his head, listening. What? I demand. Marcus tried the inner gate, he says. Lucas turned him back. For now hangs between us. My heat surges again, cruel and relentless, but this time I ride it instead of drowning. I focus on Ethan's weight, on his hair under my fingers, on the way his trust settles over me heavier than any crown. If Lucas dies tonight, the bond might tear me apart, I know that. But Ethan will still be here, breathing, needing someone whose sanity doesn't crumble completely. So I breathe. I build a fortress inside my bones, one stone at a time, his laugh, his small hand in mine, the promise I just made. Above us, the blood moon climbs and battle rages. Inside the sanctuary, with my son trembling in my arms, I decide that if madness comes, it will have to fight me for every inch. The first warning is the crack of stone. It's small at first, a hairline fracture zigzagging across the ceiling of the sanctuary. Dust sifts down, glimmering in the lantern light. Ethan presses closer to me on the bench, fingers tightening around mine. Mama, it's nothing, I start to say. The wall explodes inward, rock shatters, slamming into the pool, sending water and debris across the chamber. I twist, curling my body around Ethan as shards sting my back. The lantern goes out, plunging us into darkness edged only by the sickly red glow seeping from the tunnel beyond. Footsteps, the scrape of claws on stone. The coppery reek of strange wolves. Miriam is already moving. For someone with silver hair and wrinkled hands, she's terrifyingly fast. She plants herself between us and the breach, staff in both hands, the carved wolf head at its tip beginning to glow. "You should not be here," she says to the shadows. A man steps into the light, tall, lean, eyes like broken glass catching every glint of red from the blood moon. Marcus Thorne smiles, slow and sharp. "On the contrary," he says, "I'm exactly where I need to be." My wolf goes silent, then snarls. This is the one, the bad wolf from all the whispered stories. The monster outside the walls, the hand behind every blade pointed at my son. His gaze slides over Miriam past Marcus's empty station, he's still upstairs, and lands on me. Then on the boy half hidden behind my arm. "So this is him," Marcus murmurs. "The precious mistake. I expected more." Ethan trembles, nails digging into my skin. I pull him fully behind me, standing even though my knees feel like water and my heat has turned my blood to fire. "Turn around," Miriam says. Her voice doesn't shake. "Last warning," Marcus laughs. "Old mother, do you really think you can stop what's coming?" In answer, Miriam slams her staff onto the stone. Runes carved into the floor flare white, a dome of shimmering light snapping up around Ethan and me. The impact of it sings through my bones. "Stay inside the circle," she says without looking back. No matter what you see, 2 shadow pack wolves slip from the tunnel behind Marcus, eyes glowing, teeth bared. They smell of rot and cold iron. They are not here to take prisoners. My heat surges, the bond flares. Somewhere far above, Lucas howls, pain, rage, defiance. The sound crashes through my skull like a wave. I sway, gripping Ethan's shoulders. "Mama, I'm scared," he whispers. "So am I say. "But we're wolves. We don't run from fear. We breathe through it." Marcus steps closer to the edge of the glowing circle, eyes narrowed. He lifts a hand, presses it lightly to the barrier. It sizzles, pushing him back a step. "Old magic," he muses. "Impressive. But everything breaks eventually." He nods once. The 2 wolves start forward, slamming against the shield, claws screeching over invisible resistance. The barrier holds, but of course, it does not stop sound. Their snarls reverberate through the chamber, an ugly counterpoint to the distant war above. Miriam doesn't wait for them to adjust. She moves, faster than I've ever seen her, staff whipping forward to crack across one wolf's snout. Bone crunches. He yelps, stumbles. The second lunges, she pivots, jamming the staff's glowing head into his chest. Light bursts. The smell of scorched fur fills the air. He drops, not dead, but stunned. Marcus watches, mild amusement fading to something like respect. "I always did underestimate you, Miriam." "You still do," she says. Then he shifts. There's no ceremony to it. One heartbeat, he is a man, the next a massive dark wolf launching at the barrier. The impact shudders through the circle. Cracks of dim light race across its surface. Miriam grunts, bracing her staff with both hands. Sweat beads on her forehead. The runes at our feet flicker. "Back," she hisses over her shoulder. Farther back, I drag Ethan with me until our shoulders hit cold stone. The heat inside me claws and rages at being trapped while my mate bleeds and my pack fights. My wolf slams herself against the inside of my skin, desperate to join. Marcus hits the shield again. Each strike is timed with a distant thunder from above, as if he's syncing his assault with the pounding of battering rams on the gates. One more blow and the barrier shivers, then splinters like glass under strain. Light rains down in dull fragments. The circle is gone. Miriam doesn't hesitate. She steps directly into Marcus's path, staff thrusting for his throat. For one glorious second, I think she might actually fell him. He twists, teeth flash. There's a wet, tearing sound and Miriam chokes. I see it in pieces. The staff clattering from her hand, the dark fur at Marcus's jaw slick with red. Miriam staggering, hands pressed to the widening stain on her chest. "Miriam," Ethan screams. Time fractures. She turns her head toward us, eyes already dimming but fierce. "Stay," she starts. Marcus yanks her away like a rag doll and flings her into the pool. The water blooms crimson. Something in me breaks. Heat and grief and 5 years of swallowed fear fuse into a single blinding roar inside my skull. The half-formed bond between Lucas and me ignites, a fuse catching at both ends. For an instant, I feel him again, struggling, furious, alive. But this time, I don't just receive. I pull. Power slams into me, raw and wild. Not mine. His. Alpha strength pours through the thin threads tying us together. Too much for my body. Too much for anyone not built to hold it. My wolf rises to meet it. Pain lances through my spine, my bones, my teeth. I don't choose to shift so much as I explode into it, skin dissolving into fur, hands into paws, human voice into a howl that rattles the sanctuary walls. When it clears, I am on 4 feet. I have shifted before. Quiet, submissive, always with one ear bent to someone else's command. This is nothing like that. The world sharpens into scents and angles. I smell Ethan's terror behind me, bright and sharp. I smell Miriam's blood cooling in the pool. I smell Marcus's arrogance and the ash stink of his wolves. And under all of it, threading through my veins, I smell Lucas, his strength, his fury, his will not to break. Omegas submit, the old lessons whisper. Not tonight. Marcus turns to face me, surprise flickering in his eyes. I must cut a strange figure, smaller than his warriors, silver-furred, eyes burning with a light that is not just my own. The air around me hums, vibrating with borrowed alpha power. Ah, he says, voice edged with curiosity. There she is. I move. I'm not stronger than him, not really. But I move as if I am, because I can feel how Lucas would move in my place, and the bond lets me trace those paths. I dart under Marcus's first lunge, slam my shoulder into his ribs harder than any Omega should be able to. He stumbles. The 2 wolves he brought shake off their daze and converge. One goes for my throat, the other for my flank. I twist, jaws snapping. Teeth meet flesh. He yelps, blood hot on my tongue. The other clamps onto my hind leg, pain flares, but the borrowed strength lets me spin, wrenching free with a spray of red. Behind me, Ethan presses into the corner, arms over his head, but he doesn't scream again. Brave, stubborn boy. My boy. I plant myself between him and the attackers and snarl, pouring every ounce of power, mine and Lucas's, into that sound. It reverberates through stone. One of the wolves actually falters, eyes flicking toward the exit like he might run. Marcus snaps at him, a vicious warning. Cowards die worse in the shadow pack. The wolf flinches back into line. They come at me again. It's chaos. I am teeth and claws and fury, a silver streak bouncing between dark bodies. Each time I should fall, something surges up the bond. An extra burst of speed, a spark of pain that is not mine but Lucas's, triggering my own stubbornness. You are not dying without me. I throw back along that thread, half snarl, half prayer. A gash opens along my flank, my leg buckles. One wolf drives me toward the wall, aiming to pin and tear. I slam my head into his jaw, feel something crack. He recoils, I lunge for his throat, and feel cartilage give under my bite. He drops, twitching. The last wolf hesitates. Useless, Marcus growls. He leaps himself. We collide hard enough to rattle my teeth. His weight drives me back, claws raking my side. Pain blooms white. I angle my body so when we hit the ground, I roll, using his momentum to throw him off. He recovers faster, landing in a crouch, lips peeled from his fangs. He's stronger, more experienced. If this were just me, it would already be over. But it isn't just me. Something hot and bright floods the bond, a flare of Lucas's rage as if he's felt my injuries and refuses to accept them. It pumps straight into my veins, burning away some of the hurt. I swear I can hear his voice in my head, a distant command not aimed at me but bolstering me anyway. Stand. I do. Marcus lunges for the space I just vacated. My claws rake his muzzle, drawing lines of red. It's not much, but it's enough to wipe the smirk from his eyes. He circles, studying me now, wariness threading his scent. What are you? He snarls. I don't have words like this. Only intent. Mother. Mate. Omega. Not prey. I feint left, then hurl myself right, slamming into his already bruised ribs. He grunts, stumbling, stone cracks under his paws. Behind me, Ethan whimpers, "Mama," and the sound is a whip. I will not let this creature reach my child. We crash together again and again, exchanging blood and blows, until the sanctuary smells like iron and wet rock and our combined fury. My lungs burn, my limbs shake. The borrowed power flickers. I can feel its cost on both ends of the bond. Just a little longer, I beg whatever listens to wolves and fools. Just enough. A new scent slices through the thick air. Sharp, familiar, electrifying. Pine, smoke, home. The sanctuary entrance erupts in light and sound as another body hurtles through the broken wall, larger than Marcus, fur dark as midnight, eyes blazing crimson in the blood moon's reflection. Lucas. Relief tears through the bond so violently my legs almost go out from under me. I stagger but stay upright, planting myself between Ethan and the chaos as my Alpha King slams into Marcus with the force of an avalanche. My borrowed strength fades the instant Lucas's own hits its target. The channel between us settles into something less frantic, more like a pulse in sync. I sag back toward my son, brushing my muzzle against his hair as he reaches trembling fingers for my fur. I've got him. Lucas's presence seems to say across the room, through the blood and stone and the lingering glow of Miriam's sacrifice. You'd better, I answer silently, baring my teeth at any remaining wolf who even thinks about coming near us. Because now they know. Omegas don't just endure. We burn. When it's over, the silence is the loudest thing in the room. Stone drips. Water in the sanctuary pool ripples pink. The air is thick with blood and smoke and burnt magic. My lungs drag in ragged breaths through a throat raw from snarling. Marcus Thorne lies at my feet. He's half-shifted, caught between wolf and man, eyes glassy. My teeth marks score his throat, every swallow a wet gurgle. He isn't dead yet. Part of me thinks he should die by a king's hand, not a desperate Omega drunk on borrowed power. Then I look at Ethan, dust in his hair, terror in his eyes, pressed against the wall where I shoved him. Mercy feels like a luxury. A new scent cuts through the copper reek. Pine, smoke, home, Lucas. He fills the broken archway like something carved from the war itself, fur matted with blood that isn't all his, eyes burning in the blood moon's glow. Behind him, distant howls already falter and scatter. The shadow pack is breaking. For a heartbeat, we only stare at each other. I must be a sight. Silver wolf stained red, flanks heaving, one hind leg dragging slightly where a bite went too deep. Ethan's scent clings to my fur. Miriam's fading blood stains the pool. Marcus's fear poisons the air. Something fierce flickers across Lucas's face. Awe. Possessive pride. Something that looks dangerously like love. He steps inside, slow, careful, as if any sudden move might crack me. His gaze flicks to Marcus, then to me again. You did this, the bond hums between us, more feeling than words. Marcus coughs a laugh, red flecking his teeth. Took you long enough, King, he rasps. Your Omega fights better than you. Lucas moves before the insult finishes. No roar, no theatrics. 3 strides and his weight slams Marcus to the stone, one massive paw pinning his chest. You touched my family, Lucas says, voice low and lethal. That's the last mistake you'll ever make. He doesn't drag it out. One swift, brutal snap of his jaws, and Marcus Thorne is gone. Silence again. The power I stole through the bond flickers, then drains, leaving me abruptly aware of every cut and bruise. My legs wobble, the room tilts. Lucas is there before I fall. His body brushes mine, solid and hot, propping me up with the simplest contact. The connection between us steadies into something like a shared heartbeat. For the first time, it feels less like a chain and more like a spine. Ethan's sob shatters the stillness. Mama? Daddy? He stumbles toward us, feet slipping on wet stone. Instinct flares. I bare my teeth at anything approaching my pup, but it's him, my boy, our boy. I nudge my head into his chest, letting his small hands bury themselves in my fur. It's okay, Lucas says aloud now. By the time I blink, he's shifting, fur folding into skin, bones snapping back into place. In seconds, he's kneeling in front of Ethan, naked, bloodied, utterly unconcerned with anything but the child clutching at him. Ethan flings his arms around his neck. Lucas catches him, holds him so tightly Ethan squeaks. You're squishing me, Ethan mumbles. Good, Lucas says, voice wrecked. I need to make sure you're real. My own change comes slower this time, less explosion, more exhale. When it's over, I'm on my knees, shivering, arms wrapped around my ribs. Every breath reminds me I am painfully, wonderfully alive. Lucas looks up at me over Ethan's shoulder. For the first time since I met him, he hesitates. "Can I touch you?" he asks quietly. The question undoes me more than any wound. I nod. He sets Ethan down gently and crosses the space, cupping my face like it's something holy and fragile. His thumbs wipe blood from my cheeks, some mine, some not. "You're hurt," he says. "I've had worse." He huffs a broken sound that might be a laugh. "You took on Marcus Thorne in a hole in the ground while in heat," he murmurs. "If anyone ever doubted you were my mate, that ended tonight." Ethan tugs at his tunic. "Are the bad wolves gone?" For now, Lucas answers, eyes still on me. "They've lost their alpha. They'll turn on each other. We'll handle the rest later." Later. The word tastes like a future. Crew and healers will come soon. The palace will demand orders, tallies, explanations Miriam should have lived to give. For this narrow slice of time, though, it's just us in a ruined sanctuary that smells of blood and something softer underneath. Lucas shifts his hand to my shoulder. "We're not staying down here another minute," he says. "You're coming back to the light." This time it sounds less like a command and more like a promise. He scoops Ethan up with one arm and offers the other to me. I hesitate a heartbeat, then lean into him, letting my weight rest against his side. The climb back up blurs, stone, pain, Ethan's sleepy head on my shoulder, but Lucas never loosens his grip. By the time we reach the royal wing, the worst is over. Smoke hangs beyond the windows, scattered howls echo far away. Inside, warriors and servants freeze as we pass, king, omega, heir, all blood-stained but walking. At our chamber door, Lucas pauses. Inside, he tells the guard, "No interruptions unless the world ends again." The room is dim, mercifully quiet. Miriam's absence aches like a missing tooth. I ease Ethan onto the bed. He curls instantly around a pillow, breathing slow and even. When I turn, Lucas is watching me like I might vanish. "I owe you a question," he says. "I could list a few," I answer, but the edge is dulled. He takes a breath. "Sarah," he says, "will you complete the bond with me?" My heart trips. "You picked one hell of a night." I know, his gaze doesn't leave my face. "But I almost lost you twice, once to Marcus, once to the bond tearing itself apart. I'm done pretending we have endless time." He steps closer, and I see the faint tremor in his hands. "I don't want you because the council demands a queen," he says. "I don't want you because biology is screaming in our blood. I want you because when you stood over Marcus with our son behind you, I realized I have never respected anyone the way I respect you. I have never wanted anyone the way I want you." My throat burns. "Lucas." "I will not claim you as property," he cuts in gently, "not as ornament or secret. I am asking," his voice drops, "will you be my Luna, my partner, not my possession?" Tears sting my eyes. For so long, being his meant losing myself. Now, for the first time, it sounds like stepping into a space already shaped around me. "I'm an omega from nowhere," I say. "Your court will hate me. Your enemies will aim for me. Your life gets harder. My life's been half-lived without you," he replies. "Let them hate. Let them try. They'll learn what happens when they reach for my heart." A shaky laugh slips out. "You're still dramatic." He smiles, quick and boyish, and it knocks the last defenses down. "I'm still angry," I warn. "At your counsel. At the years we lost." "Good," he says. "We'll use it." I wipe my cheeks. "You're going to regret giving me equal say." "I've seen what you do with borrowed power," he murmurs. "I want to see what you do with your own." The bond hums between us, open, waiting. For once, it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like a door I get to choose. I close the distance, threading my fingers through his blood-warm hand. "Yes," I whisper. "I'll be your Luna." Relief softens his whole face. When he leans in, his eyes glow faintly, every instinct screaming to mark, to seal, to claim, but he still moves slowly, giving me room to step back. I don't. His mouth meets mine, not like the reckless night under the eclipse, but like a vow. Heat flares, mine, his, the bonds, but beneath it is something steadier. choice, partnership, home. Outside, the last echoes of battle fade into the night. Inside, for the first time, I let myself believe that whatever comes next, I won't be facing it as a fugitive Omega with a secret. I will face it as Luna, as mate, as the woman who stood over a dead alpha and chose to live. The palace feels like a different world at dawn. For the first time in days, no horns blare, no boots thunder past our door. Instead, there is birdsong above the tiled roofs and the soft splash of water in the reflecting pool as coy noses break the surface for the crumbs Ethan throws. "Look, Mama," he says, kneeling at the edge, careful the way Lucas taught him. "They like me." Sunlight paints his hair gold. His giggle bounces off stone walls that have heard too many screams, and in that moment it sounds like the first real healing this place has ever known. Lucas stands at my side, close enough that his warmth seeps through the light cloak over my shoulders. His hand finds mine without looking, fingers sliding between mine like they were always meant to fit there. The mate mark on my neck throbs, not painfully, just present, a new heartbeat under my skin. When his thumb brushes the edge of it, my wolf rolls in contentment instead of restlessness for the first time in years. "Does it still hurt?" he asks. "A little," I admit. "Mostly when you touch it, then I'll keep touching it," he says softly. "So you remember you chose this. You chose me, not the other way around." I huff a breath that might be a laugh. "Pretty sure you did some choosing too." "Oh, I did," he says, "and I'll keep choosing you every day. I intend to spend an absurd amount of time proving you were right to say yes." His words should feel heavy. Instead, they settle over me like a promise I've already seen him keep, dragging himself bloody back from the walls, plunging into the sanctuary, letting me borrow his strength without complaint, asking instead of commanding. At the pool, Ethan abandons the fish to chase a butterfly drifting lazily over the garden beds. He runs in crooked circles, hands reaching, tongue poking out in concentration. His laugh rings out when the butterfly outmaneuvers him again, soaring just out of reach. Running kept us alive, I think, watching him. Kept him hidden, kept me breathing. But it also kept us small, afraid, alone. Staying is terrifying in a different way. It means roots. It means being visible. It means painting target circles around everything I love. It also means Ethan has a father who sweeps him up when he trips and kisses skinned knees, a pack that will one day howl for him, a future that is more than cheap apartments and fake names. It means I am no longer a ghost haunting the edges of my own life. Lucas follows my gaze. "He looks happy," he says. "He is," I answer. "So am I, most of the time." He squeezes my hand once. I can work with most. Footsteps crunch softly on the gravel path. A young woman approaches, slender, dark hair braided in the older palace style. I recognize her as one of Miriam's apprentices. Lena, the one who always hovered in doorways with an armful of scrolls and eyes that missed nothing. She bows, not as deeply as the nobles do, but with more sincerity. "Your Majesty." "Luna." The title still makes something inside me jolt. I steady my breath. "Lena, you can call me Sarah when we're not in public." Her mouth twitches. "I'll try." I bring a message from the oracle. Of course. Peace never lasts long in palaces. Lucas's shoulders tense almost imperceptibly. "Let's hear it." Lena unwraps a small bundle of cloth. Inside, a flat stone gleams, etched with swirling lines that pulse faintly with unseen magic. Her voice takes on a cadence that is not entirely her own as she recites. "The river you damned will seek another path. Blood that was exiled now turns its face homeward. A king's brother comes with hunger in his mouth and thunder at his back. The air's light will draw both shield and sword." A chill slides down my spine despite the warm morning. "Your brother," I say quietly. I've heard whispers half-hushed in corners. Exiled, dangerous. Not as controlled as Lucas, and that is saying something. Lucas's jaw tightens. "He's heard about Ethan," he says. "Of course he has." Lena wraps the stone again, the borrowed cadence fading from her voice. "The oracle says the timing is not set, only the direction. You have bought yourselves days, maybe weeks." "Not years," I murmur. She gives a small apologetic tilt of her head. The oracle does not deal in comfort, only in what must be faced. Ethan's shout pulls our attention back to the pool. Daddy, I almost caught it. He leaps for the butterfly again, misses spectacularly, and lands on his backside in the grass. For a heartbeat, he looks startled. Then, deciding on laughter instead of tears, he rolls onto his back and spreads his arms like he meant to fall that way. Lucas's tension eases a fraction at the sight. Tell the oracle we've heard, he says to Lena, eyes still on our son. We'll be ready when my brother gets tired of running. She nods and retreats, steps light on the path. I watch Ethan chase the butterfly again, as relentless as any alpha, as joyful as any child. The coming storm is real. Lucas's brother, the fractured shadow pack, the nobles still deciding whether to accept an Omega Luna. None of that disappears because we fed koi at sunrise. But for the first time, the weight of what's coming doesn't push me toward the gates. It roots me here. Do you regret it? I ask suddenly. Bonding with me, a Luna who comes with baggage and enemies and terrible timing. Lucas turns fully toward me, surprise flashing in his eyes like I've asked whether he regrets breathing. I regret 5 years without you, he says. I regret listening to cowards instead of my own instincts. I regret every night your heat burned and I wasn't there to hold you through it or fetch ice and curse the moon with you. His fingers brush my mark again, gentler this time, reverent. But this, he murmurs, being here, with you, with him, I'd go through every war again to stand in this garden right now. Emotion rises thick in my throat. I blink hard, refusing to cry over words when I've already bled for this man. Careful, I say. If you keep talking like that, I might start believing you're a soft alpha. He leans in, his breath warm against my ear. Don't you dare spread that rumor, he whispers. I have a reputation to maintain. Ethan barrels into us before I can reply, arms flung around both our legs. I think the butterfly likes us, he announces. It keeps coming back. That's because it knows a new pack is forming, Lucas says, scooping him up. Even butterflies can sense these things. Ethan giggles and wraps his arms around his neck. Are we a real pack now? Lucas looks at me over our son's shoulder. The answer sits in his eyes, in the steadiness of his grip, in the way our bond hums like a quiet yes. We are, he says, and it's just the beginning. He sets Ethan down near the pond again. Our boy crouches, whispering secrets to the fish. I slide my hand into Lucas's, feeling the tender throb of the mark, the steady beat of his pulse, the strange, fragile miracle of having survived long enough to stand here. Running kept us breathing. Staying might let us live. Whatever storms are coming, the exiled brother, the wary council, the remnants of the shadow pack, they can have tomorrow. Today, the sun is soft, the koi are hungry, our son is laughing, and we are learning how to exist without flinching. If you've stayed with this story to this point, tell me where you're watching from and which moment hit you hardest. The hotel corridor of this world, the sanctuary battle, the mate bond finally sealed, or this quiet morning in the garden. And if you want more heat, more claws, and more complicated alphas and omegas, get ready. An uncensored werewolf romance novella is coming, packed with darker scenes, steamier moments, and a whole new pack of secrets waiting to be unleashed.